A Walk Through the Presence Process, Track 2.
So we have pain in our body, and what we do is, instead of responding to it and going, let me feel this and be with it, then I'll take a tab and go, let me numb that. Or go to somebody that has no clue what's going on and say, what do I do about this? And they'll go, well, I think we have a name for that, because we don't know what it is, so we named it. And that name, we have a whole lot of medication that goes with that name. Don't mind the side effects. We have a medication for the side effects as well. No, it's important to go to a doctor if you have serious symptoms. If I get run over by a car, please don't take me to an acupuncturist. Don't do Reiki on me, for goodness sake. Just take me to the doctor. Doctors are very good with physical trauma. But on a basic, everyday basis, we have pains and discomforts. And you'll notice your automatic response is to flee from them when it's really asking for my compassionate attention. So when we start connecting our breathing for 15 minutes twice a day, we are going to be staying in our body. And that's a whole new experience. So you may come to my house once a week for a cup of tea, every Saturday afternoon from 3 to 4, and do that for 6 years, and assume that you know my house because you use the bathroom and the kitchen, hanging out in the garden. You know my house. But if I ask you to house sit for me, I'm going away for a while, won't you stay in my house? Within 24 hours of staying in my house, you are going to notice things about that house that you never saw before. Cracks in the corner, this going on here, that picture I've never seen before, because you're now staying in the house. It's the same when we start our connected breathing. An aspect of our awareness is now going to stay in the body. And by staying in the body, we are going to become aware of the discomfort that's been chasing us out the body. And depending on our level of awareness grows according to the pathway of awareness. So it's going to go from physical to mental to emotional or body awareness. So initially my awareness may be purely on a physical level because I've been physically transfixed by the world. That's my main means of perceiving things. Physical. And if that's the case, then my emotional discomfort, as it starts to come up, will come up as physical sensations in my body. That's the only way I can start to perceive them. They might come out as aches, cramps, all sorts of things that are starting to come into my awareness. Now, if that happens, and I now go and start taking medication to numb them, I'm defeating the purpose here. What they're coming up for is because I'm agreeing to give them my compassionate attention, just to be with it. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried that. Because normally what we do is when we start getting involved in alternative healings and things, then we get all these visualizations to do. Imagine your pain as a piece of knotted barbed wire. And you want to turn it into feathers so that it can float away. Don't do that to yourself. Okay? Don't go there. Don't have an agenda. Don't think you know what you've got to do. Surrender and being sure. What you can do and what's real is you can be with that pain. It's calling the attention and give it attention. Give it compassionate attention. In other words, I will be with you and I will not interfere with you anymore. Because when I have a pain or something going in my body and I run and take medication, immediately I'm going to pop a painkiller just because my head's sore, I'm interfering. I'm going into fear about what's happening. And nothing can come of interference. So what it's asking me to do is just to be with what's going on in my body. Now, when we get upset, this is where we can start working with this. When we get upset and I say, what is it I'm feeling? When I ask myself the question, am I feeling fear? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling sad, grief? Once I can feel that feeling, I will also be able to feel where that is in the body. It'll be somewhere in the body. When I'm angry, there will be heat. There will be a tightening of something. When I'm afraid, there will be a tightening of something. There will be a feeling, a sensation in the body, a physical sensation. Because that's the first way I'm able to perceive what that energy is on a physical level. So what I can do to now really start anchoring my awareness back into my body instead of projecting it out in the world is to respond consciously by giving it my compassionate attention and bringing it back into balance. It doesn't mean I must do something with my fear. It doesn't mean I must do something with my anger or with my grief. Enough doing something with it and doing something because of it. Just be with it in a compassionate way. Allow it to be there and sit with it. So that's really the feel it to heal it process beginning to start. In other words, unless I feel how out of balance I am when I'm falling forward, I cannot bring myself back into balance. Just feeling it, not fiddling with it, not entering any profound visualizations about it, not interfering with it and going and doing things to it. Just being with it and feeling it automatically starts bringing it back into balance. And it won't come back into balance according to our dictates. In fact, it may initially start becoming what we think of as worse. It's not getting worse. I'm just becoming more aware of it now. By placing my attention on it, my awareness of it grows, and as my awareness grows, it may feel like the pain's getting worse. No, actually, as I'm staying in my body, I'm feeling the full extent of it. I just never felt it fully before because I don't live in the body. Close the eyes. Some of you are already doing that. That's okay. That's also okay. Close the eyes and connect the breathing. So let's put our attention on that upset we had, that we can now allow ourselves to call a messenger. And as we went into the process of responding consciously to that experience, we asked ourselves some questions. And one of the questions was, how does that make me feel? Am I angry? Am I afraid? Am I sad? Remember that feeling that we had, because it's really the feeling that drew our attention to the fact that we're upset. It's really the feeling that's grabbing our attention. So when we remember that feeling, where do we feel that in the body? When we feel angry or sad or afraid, where in the body am I actually feeling that? And when I discover where I'm actually feeling it in my body, it's quite a profound thing, because now I see that what I thought was happening outside of me is actually inside of me. And all I do is I place my compassionate attention upon that part of my body and just be with that. Allow myself to feel it. And by allowing myself to feel it, I'm entering a porthole into emotional body awareness. I'm awakening my ability to begin feeling again. My pain and discomfort is an invitation to re-enter my heart by beginning to feel again. Come back. Open the eyes. So what we are doing now is we're traveling along the pathway of awareness. We really are on the doorstep of the emotional, because we're starting to allow ourselves to feel. Even though we might be accessing it through the physical sensations in our body, by allowing ourselves to feel them, we awaken feeling the emotional body. We're starting to exercise emotional body awareness. So we've started moving along the pathway of awareness back into our emotional body. Actually, we're reversing our movement along the pathway of awareness. We've gone from the physical by identifying those memory messengers. We've gone into the mental by starting to seek information from those memories. And we've gone right to the doorstep of the emotional by allowing us to feel where those memories are actually lodged within our body as physical sensations. So now we enter session 5 in the presence process, and the present activation statement is, I compassionately embrace my innocence. I compassionately embrace my innocence. And my innocence, or my inner sense, is the same as my insight. It's related to that. So my innocence is related to the sense that I have coming out of my emotional body, which I access through a sense of feeling. This is where we enter work which we call inner child work. And inner child work is really not so much about the child, but about awakening the parent. And the child is there for us as a tool for us to awaken our parent. Because if we don't awaken the parent within us, we will consistently seek the parent outside of us. And that's looking for other people to fulfill our needs and wants. And we do this whenever we get into a relationship with anybody. If we don't tend to our unconscious needs and wants, then what happens is I meet somebody who I see my own dysfunctions in, reflected clearly, and that excites me, and I call that romance. And I go, this person can make me happy. And what I'm really saying is that if I can deal with what I see reflected in them, then I know I'll be happy. But I don't deal with what I see reflected in them. What I do is I try and change them. And I enter a relationship with them based on my needs and wants. And when I try and make someone else take care of my needs and wants, what I'm really doing is turning that person into my parent. So I marry someone and I immediately turn them into my mother or father. And once I've turned them into my mother and father, then I don't want to have a sexual encounter with them anymore. The intimacy is gone, because who wants to sleep with their parents? And I've done that to them because I'm unable to be my own parent, because I don't know how to take care of my own heart. I'm running around the world looking for someone else to do that for me. So heart work or inner child work is about me becoming my own parent. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to become my own family. So all the archetypes of the family that are placed there as archetypes to reflect specific things back to us about our emotional body, if I want to evolve emotionally and grow up as an emotional being, I have to become all of those for myself. In every family, there is born an individual, or sometimes two individuals, who we would call the black sheep of the family. Now, ring a bell to anybody. And what the black sheep of the family is really is the transformer in the family. I call it the changeling. Okay, the only one can make real changes in the dysfunctional patterns of the family. Because what keeps a family together is dysfunction, not love. What we share with our families is our dysfunction. So the changeling's job is to get to a point of awareness where they can make those changes within themselves, where they can transform within themselves, where they can enter divine alchemy. The rest of the family's job is to reflect what needs to be changed. The only problem is, because we're such reactive beings, initially what the changeling will do is try and change everyone in the family and go, I found this thing, it really works for me, why don't you do it? Which is a reactive behavior and, again, interference. So if we want to see what our emotional work is very clearly, what the work is we need to do, it's very easy. Go to a family gathering. The family is the clearest mirror of what needs to be worked on in our own heart. The family is a perfect barometer of whether you're doing this work authentically. The family will not lie. They'll always be an honest reflection of the work that we're doing within ourselves. The father is always about guidance. The mother is always about nurturing. The brother is always about lessons that we need to learn. And the sister is always about restoring balance or healing. If I'm in discord with my father, the level to which I'm in discord with my father is the level to which I'm refusing to learn how to be my own guidance. The level to which I'm in discord with my mother is the level to which I'm refusing to learn how to nurture myself. The level to which I'm in discord with my sister is related to where I'm not wanting to heal myself. And the discord that I have with my brother is about where I'm refusing to learn the life lessons I've come to learn. So what I do is I run to my mother for nurturing, and I wonder why I have an unbalanced relationship with her. It's not my mother's job to nurture me. It's my job to learn how to nurture myself. And wherein I'm refusing to do that and grow up and do it, I will have an unpleasant relationship with my mother, because she's going to reflect that to me. And as long as she reflects that, she remains my mother. She reflects that dysfunction that I've come to work with related to self-nurturing. The moment I learn how to nurture myself through response, not reaction, in other words, I'm not going to the gym to have a great body so that my buddies will be impressed, but if I'm taking care of my physical body because I love myself, as an act of love, as a response to myself, the moment I do that authentically, and the moment I learn how to authentically nurture myself, my mother will cease to be my mother. I will take on that role. I will have become my own mother. And my mother will then become my friend. She will no longer have to play that role. I won't have to play the son. She won't have to play the mother. We can now be friends. That is the barometer of the success that we're having with our emotional work. And it begins with working with my own heart. So the emotional body works through metaphor. That's the language of the emotional body. It doesn't work through understanding and analysis and all of that. It works through metaphor. And so when I want to work with my emotional body directly, a good way of doing that is calling it the child. There is no inner child unless I'm pregnant. The inner child is the emotional body. And we call it the child because if I want to have a healthy relationship with my emotional body, the model for that is how a parent has a healthy relationship with a child. When we're being upset by somebody, and we get the information, I'm feeling sad, we feel it in the physical body because that's where our awareness is when we start this emotional work. It's in a physical place. But really the truth of the matter is, it's the child that's sad. It's not the adult. When I'm getting upset, what's actually happening is I'm feeling what's going on with my heart, with the child in me. Whether I respond or react to that is going to determine whether that continues or whether I transform that. So knowing how to work with my heart and learning, because it's something I have to learn how to do. No one has taught me how to do that. The example set for me of how to work with a child was set by my parents. And they followed the example set for them by their parents, who followed the example set for them by their parents. And as we go further back, it gets darker and darker. And there's less awareness of really how to do this. So it begins with my relationship with my own heart. So if I am feeling fear, how am I going to respond to that in myself? Am I going to try and stop it? Don't be afraid. Nothing to be afraid about. Am I going to try and cover it up? Am I going to distract myself from it? Or am I going to be with it? So I compassionately embrace my innocence. It's really just about being with the heart in the state that it's in. It's the same with a child that comes forward that is afraid. And I just say to the child, I know you're afraid. It's quite all right to be afraid. Whatever happened to you frightened you, so you're afraid. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. And I will be with you through it. I'm not going to make you feel something else. I'm not going to judge what you're feeling. And when I'm with the child in that way, the child will go through its fear. It'll pass. It'll feel comforted by my presence. The fear will pass and it will go back out and play. But if I say, don't be afraid, now it has to create an inauthentic behavior to cover up what it's really feeling. It has to create an act. Every time it's afraid, it's now going to create an act, and then it goes into reactive behavior. So it's very important to teach the child, the heart, to be the parent to the heart, because the heart center is the causal point of our experience, and it follows our example all the time. The heart, or the child within us, as we can call it, sees us, the adult, as the parent now. It doesn't see us as part of itself. It sees us as the parent, and it watches our behavior towards it and towards the world around us. So if I say no when I mean yes, and yes when I mean no, do you think my heart is going to trust me when I say, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of you? If I can't stand up for myself and reach out for the things in the world that I'm wanting, do you think it's going to believe in me and listen to me? So the way I behave to others in the world, but more specifically the way I behave towards my own self with whatever I'm going through, is going to determine what my heart thinks is the right way of going about things. So if I have no compassion to myself, because my heart center is the causal point of my experience, I will manifest experiences in my life that are not compassionate, full of interference. Because the heart is the creator. The child is made in the image of God. That means the heart is the creative center of our experience. All children learn by example. When I'm sick, when I'm not feeling well, what do? Do I drive myself? Do I not allow myself to rest? What is the example I'm setting for myself here? So my behavior towards myself is going to set up my heart's idea of the type of world it's going to manifest for me to be in. It's the creator. So let's close our eyes and for a moment connect our breathing. Let's recall that upset that we brought with us, that we allow ourselves to call the messenger. And we asked some questions about that. And one of those questions were, how were we feeling in that moment that we got upset? And then when we allowed ourselves to feel that feeling, we discovered that there is a physical location for that feeling in the body, which enables us to anchor ourselves not only in the body, but come to the doorway of the emotional realm through feeling that sensation. Now we remind ourselves that it's not really us, the adult persona, that's going through that feeling. It's the heart that's going through that feeling, and therefore the child, the metaphor of the child within us. So it's a very simple way of working with this, of accessing the compassion. And that is, when you know that you're feeling afraid or angry or sad, just see yourself as a 5-year-old standing in front of you, the adult, feeling that way, because that's closer to the truth of what's going on. And when you see yourself as a 5-year-old standing in front of you feeling angry or sad or afraid, how do you respond to that? How do you respond to that part of yourself? Because however you choose to respond to that part of yourself is going to be the definition of love that you manifest in your experience every day. Okay, open your eyes, come back. The more I take responsibility for that part of my experience, for the way that I'm interacting with my heart, when that becomes a consistent part of my behavior, I'm less likely to manifest drama in the world, because drama is all about me trying to get attention that I'm unable to give myself. That's all drama is. I'm looking for someone to be my mother or father in this world. When that's my job. If I want to grow up, that's my job. So it's about consistently being like that. Whenever I'm in discomfort, whenever things are challenging for me, how am I going to be with myself in that moment? When I'm really tired, how am I going to be with myself? Am I going to drive myself? Am I going to be loving towards myself? That's really important. Because when I learn to take care of myself on that level, I don't seek that out in other people, and I don't enter relationships with them that's based on need and want. Need, unresolved things from the past. Want, fearful things about the future. Then relationships I enter can be out of choice. And I can allow that person to be who they are. I won't turn them into something they're not. And then I don't enter the relationship wanting something. And if we've ever entered a relationship and exited very disappointed, it's because we wanted something and we didn't get it. Because we went in there full of need and want and expected this person to fulfill those. It's no one's job to do that. That's our job. So when we get to session 6, the presence activation statement is, I neutralize my negative emotional charge. A negative emotional charge is just a phrase. It's not actually a negative emotional charge. It's just words we use to describe an experience. It's like Eckhart Tolle uses the pain body. It's just words about an energetic experience. And what the negative emotional charge is the energetic consequence of living in resistance, of living in inauthenticity, of not feeling what I'm really going through. In other words, everything I do not to feel my fear, anger, and grief will create resistance in my experience. Every time I say yes when I mean no and no when I mean yes creates resistance in my experience. And then, of course, all the reactive behaviors I've developed since childhood because I wasn't able to be spontaneous at a certain point, and so I created a behavior to mask that. And all the behaviors that I've created that get me attention from the outside world and prevent me from learning how to do that for myself, these are all inauthentic. And whenever we're being inauthentic, we're resisting our natural state of being, our authenticity. And all resistance creates heat. And this heat is like a charge that builds up in the emotional body and makes us feel really uncomfortable. And that's when we conceptualize it, we give it a name of grief, anger, and fear, and all sorts of other concepts we put around it. But really, it's just heat. So by allowing ourselves to be with those parts of our experience, by re-entering authenticity, by allowing ourselves to feel our fear, anger, and grief, we gradually start to decrease the charge. And a little bit later in the process, we'll talk about going into warm water to do so as part of the journey. Let's take a look at what we've done in the first few sessions. Because what we've done is create a pathway of awareness into ourselves, from the physical to the mental and now into the emotional. Once we're working directly with our child self as a metaphor, you see, metaphor allows us to enter our emotional body in a way that thinking and understanding cannot. For example, if I say to you that if you want to know God, you need to go and sit under the tree out there and eat prunes all day for 6 days. You have to go and do that, and it's a messy business. If I say to you, if you want to know God, E is equal to MC squared. Just get that and you'll get God. Then you have to go and learn the science, understand the formula. You have to go and do something. But if I say to you, God is an ocean, and we are drops of that ocean, and we just have to allow ourselves to fall back in, then we don't have to do anything. That goes right into the emotional body. So if we want to speak to the emotional body, we use metaphor. That's why we call it the child. Because I can get myself to understand a relationship with a child, the innocence, and work with that. And that moves the emotional body. It moves the energy in there. So we looked at how we got upset. And when we got upset, we reacted. And we reacted by going into blame. And after the experience of blame, at some point we go into regret, shame, guilt over our behavior seemingly. And that's the pathway of awareness that was modeled to us, that our politicians use, that people all around us use, and that we have used addictively. And so what we're doing is we're looking at a new pathway of awareness. If we look at this from a point of increasing awareness, we get to realize that we weren't upset, we were set up. So every upset is actually a setup. And if we see that our behavior, that we reacted, it's an act that we just bring out every time that particular memory surfaces. And then the way we behave is we blame. So we be lame. Whenever we blame someone, we disempower ourselves. Whenever I say it's your fault, I'm feeling this way. How can it be your fault that I'm feeling this way when I'm responsible for my heart center? And on a deeper level, that's why we go into regret and shame, because on a very deep level, when I blame you for anything, I'm taking away my entire relationship with cause and effect. I'm completely disempowering myself as the creator of my own experience. I'm actually taking away all my power. So what we do is we chart a new pathway that goes from identifying the messenger to dismissing the messenger to feeling what's going on within us to compassion. And now an energy that was sent out into the world continually and that never accomplished anything. That's why the messenger just keeps coming back and back and back, because reaction accomplishes nothing. Now what we're doing is we're bringing that energy back into ourselves, bringing it to the causal point of our experience and being with it there. And if you be with your child self when it is going through fear or anger or grief, you will have an energetic experience. And often that energetic experience will feel like heat. You may feel heat build up in your body and then subside. It may also come out as tears, relief. Because behind all grief, when we allow the grief to be there, is relief. Well, what we've done is we've built an energetic pathway into our body by using this inner pathway whenever I'm getting upset. It's like a new pathway, so I've got to use it. But as I tread it regularly, I'm opening up a powerful pathway into my own emotional body, which allows me to enter there and start doing work in there, cleansing work. As we move through the emotional body, which is what we're doing from sessions 7, 8, and 9, we are going to make a movement through the emotional body. And just like this pathway of awareness that moves from physical to mental to emotional, the movement through the emotional body also follows that pathway of awareness. In other words, we are going to move from fear to anger to grief. And each of those frequencies we want to realign. Fear is about the physical. The affirmation or the presence activation statement for session 7 is, I feel safe in this body. I feel safe in this body. And when you really work with that, you'll find out where you don't. One of the reasons why we left and entered a mental place as children and found that place to go into is because we didn't want to be I don't want to be here. If a child is going through a trauma and says, I don't want to be here, we leave. Because being in this physical experience is very frightening. There's something frightening going on. I don't want to be here. So fear is directly related to why I am wanting to leave the body. So that's why we spend a good 5 sessions in the presence process, first learning how to consciously work with our anxiety. Anxiety is also an interesting word. Any exit. When I'm in anxiety, what I'm saying is, I want any way out of this moment, any way out of this experience that I can find. And because I don't know what to do with what's happening to me, I can't integrate it. But when we use this process of re-entering our emotional body consciously, which we learn to do before we do it energetically in the water, we first want to learn to do it consciously because we want to be conscious participators of our experience, of the creation of our experience. When I know that I can take anything that's upsetting me in the world and find the causal point of it and work to transform that, and what you'll do when you use that procedure is you'll find that when you clear that emotional block by being with it, that's all that's required, that messenger will no longer come back. It doesn't have to. You got the message. And then you'll realize what alchemy really is. Alchemy is taking base and turning it into gold. Taking those base experiences and turning them into gold. So you may find that you have a very troubling relationship with one of your parents. And if you really work with the emotional stuff that comes up for you whenever you're around them, don't worry about fiddling with them. That's the reactive approach. You work with the emotional stuff that they bring up, get what they're trying to give you, and transform that within yourself. You will find the entire nature of your relationship with them will transform without you having to speak a word to them about what's going on. And then you'll realize what your power is really all about. And that any uncomfortable experience outside that is impacting you emotionally in a way that you can't control, that's an upset, that you can transform. That's when you realize how much power we actually have and work with that. Then the anxiety quickly diminishes. The desire to leave this moment and to run somewhere decreases. Then I'm prepared to start to come and rest in this body and not so much run into the mental place. With the water sessions, what we're doing is we're creating an environment that is an emotional body environment. Water is the element of emotion. The sea is the ocean of emotion. What we're doing is we're sitting in warm water. And by the time we sit in warm water in this process, because of the way that our intention is being honed, and because of what we've been through through the first 6 sessions, our emotional stuff is going to be underneath the surface. And it's going to be a heat, whether we can perceive that or not, like the heat that happens in this room. And that heat is going to come head on head with the heat in the water. And what the warmth in the water is going to do is going to make us aware of the heat in our own body. And we may perceive that heat as fear or anger or grief. Remember, it's just a concept we're putting on it. But by placing our attention on the heat, it's the same, it's simply the way the emotional body works. If I feel it, I bring it back into balance. So the water enables me to feel that, being in the warm water. So in the book, what we do is we lie in warm water for 20 minutes, just be in the warm water, and then we get out and we breathe immediately afterwards because we're really close to our emotional awareness. It's interesting that being in a bath is a direct relationship with how we feel about being in our emotional body. And it's really interesting that in this country, not many people bath. Everyone's showering. They want to get in that water. Interesting thing to note. In the book, that's the gentle method. When I'm facilitating somebody one-on-one, we make the water quite warm. And then you get into the water and you breathe, you connect your breathing, and you can be in that water for up to an hour or more. And when that happens, the awareness goes right into the emotional body, and you will absolutely feel the heat of that. And it'll come face to face with the heat in the water. And the heat in the water will not give. And that's almost like a safety net, because the ego is very smart. And what is the ego? It's our behavior, our life experience, and our appearance. Now, if the ego doesn't want to deal with something, because the ego's identity is based solely on our issues. Without issues, there's no ego. Its whole identity is based on the issues that we have. It's based on fear, anger, and grief. And if it doesn't want to release any of those because now it's being threatened, then what it does is it can make our behavior and our appearance and our life circumstances appear as if we're radiantly healthy. As we're coming towards the core issue, we become even more radiantly healthy. Look at me, I feel wonderful. I don't need to deal with my stuff. I don't need to do this work. I feel really good. And often, when our ego is very clever, it can put us in a position where we're the one who helps people. I'm here to help you. You're on with me. That's the way it can hide. So we need a safety net for that. And when we get in warm water, the ego can't say, it's not warm. It's not really warm. So when we breathe in really warm water, when we're doing it one-on-one, there is no way around that for the ego. It comes face to face with itself. And the heat of the water is not going to change, but the heat that the ego is holding on to will be released. And you'll find that even happens when you're only doing the 20-minute sessions of lying in the water, that you'll get out of the bath and do your breathing and you'll feel heat radiating off you. That's the negative emotional charge peeling off. So we use water sessions to really access what's going in the emotional body in an energetic way. And we do water sessions in sessions 7, 8, and 9. And during those sessions, we are in the emotional realm of our being. And that's why you will find that as you go through sessions 7, 8, and 9, you can feel a little confused, if those of you have got that far. And the confusion is because the mental aspect is no longer of use. Now the only thing that is of use to us is to feel our way through what's going on. Whatever's coming up, just feel it. The confusion is a positive indicator that we are now in an emotional place of ourselves. When we go through this part of the process and we are now working energetically with our emotional body through the water and we are releasing this emotional charge, and we will also find that we may go through emotional experiences of being tearful and that during this period too. That's very much like letting water, old water, out of a bath. The thinking part doesn't help us anymore. So if I've been out of my emotional realm for a long time, a good metaphor is if I'm 43 now, then say I left the emotional realm about when I was 6 or 7. So let's say I haven't been in my emotional realm really for 35 years. The emotional center of my house is the bathroom. So it's like walking into my bathroom and finding that I haven't been there for 36 years, and there's a bath full of water, and it's full of algae and mosquitoes and slime. It's kind of bubbling. Blub, blub, blub. It's no point in going, oh, that's really interesting. I wonder how that happened. I wonder who did that. I wonder how long it's been here. What does it really taste like? Okay. What I want to do is pull the plug and let it out. And the pulling the plug and letting it out is the tears part of it, is the emotional release part of it. I don't have to know why I'm crying. I just let it out. I let it out so that I can clean out the tub and put fresh water in and be in my own emotional body in a comfortable way, in a cleansing way. Have a cleansing relationship, ongoing cleansing relationship with my emotional body. Because while I'm not in my emotional body, I'm not cleansing. And my relationship with my emotional body is ongoing. It's not about fixing what's going on with my heart and then getting on with something else. It's about being consistently in a place of taking care of my emotional content. In other words, it's like bathing and showering every day. So as this initial energy, blocked energy, moves out of our system, we want to make sure that with the fresh energy that's coming in other words, I don't want to then fill another bathtub up of water and behave in such a way that I walk out of the bathroom again and leave that water there to get all rotten again. I want to install a new experience, an experience in which I'm in my body, I'm going to stay in my body now, I'm going to stay in a state of mental clarity about being responsible for my experience, and I'm going to take, through my feelings, take care of my emotional body. And so what we do in the presence process is we have a navigational tool that we use to set that experience in motion. And the navigational tool works like an orchestra. The ways that we use to perceive the world, all the different aspects we use of our perception, if we want to have an experience of physical presence, then all those parts of our perception have to be tuned to what physical presence is for us. If an orchestra has all different pieces of sheet music, no matter what they play, it'll be dissonant. So we want to tune our perceptual experience to physical presence. We want to tune our perceptual tools, and so what we do is we have a navigational tool that we use for that. And this tool is infuriating to the ego. And you'll find that when you use this tool on yourself, you'll almost get a bit annoyed with it because there are no answers, seemingly. So it's a set of questions. And remember that we said we want to sit in the place of the question. The answer will come as a physical, mental, and emotional experience. So what we do is after our 15-minute breathing, twice a day, we ask a series of questions. And we ask the same questions in the morning, and then we ask them in the evening. And we ask them again in the morning and in the evening, and we do that for 7 days. And that really annoys the ego and the mental part because it goes, I already asked these questions. And they don't really make any sense. And there are no real answers for them, so why am I doing this? Okay? You have to ignore that part, and you'll feel that come up in yourself. Let's ask these questions of ourselves. Close your eyes. Connect to breathing. When we're going through session 7, I feel safe in this body. These questions are about physical presence. So I'll read them out and just ask them of yourself. If there's no answer, that's fine. If there is, take note of it and move on to the next question. What is the purpose of physical presence? What sound do I associate with physical presence? What color do I associate with physical presence? What smell do I associate with physical presence? What taste do I associate with physical presence? What emotion do I associate with physical presence? What texture do I associate with physical presence? What physical form does physical presence take for me? What movement do I associate with physical presence? What visual symbol do I associate with physical presence? Where am I experiencing effortless physical presence in my life right now? And exactly how annoyed is my mind getting by these particular questions at this moment? So come back. It doesn't matter if the answers come in the mind or not, because what will happen is they'll come in the experience. And you'll be walking a lot, maybe in the parking lot of a shopping center, and you'll hear a church bell ring and you'll suddenly feel yourself being really present by that sound. So it will come as an experience. It's a navigational tool. It's the focusing of the intent towards physical presence. We have entered the emotional body part of the process, and now we enter session 8. And session 8, the presence activation statement is, I am responsible for my own peace of mind, which sometimes, if we're still in a victim place, can appear quite insulting. I am responsible for my own peace of mind. And nothing fractures peace of mind more than anger and revenge and all that stuff that goes with it. So this morning we said that this work is about justice. And we said that the justice in the world is really revenge. And now when you understand the concept of the messenger and what the messengers are trying to tell us, not only as individually, but as the messengers of the world, there are many messengers in this world that are playing the role of messenger. And if we could just catch them and kill them and not have to look at that stuff, gosh, it would be a lot more peaceful. One of the main tools of working with anger, because in session 7 we transformed fear to safety. I feel more safe. I can work with what's happening to me. I have a tool that I can integrate it. I can now start responding to my experience. Therefore, I'm going to increase the level of safety, feeling of safety in this body. Now we're going to work with anger and move it towards peace. And the tool of moving anger into peace is the tool of forgiveness. Now, what we're taught is that you're supposed to forgive someone because it's the right thing to do. I don't know if you've tried that. I forgive you as long as you don't come around here again. And when you think you've forgiven someone because it's been the moral thing to do, all they have to do is show up to tell you that nothing actually happened, nothing changed. So forgiveness comes out of awareness. So if I look at my own life journey and I understand my imprinting, that when I was young I was imprinted with certain energy patterns, that I turned these into certain belief systems and concepts, that I manifested those as certain physical behaviors and circumstances, which I then reacted to because I was transfixed by the physical world. It's really crazy to go and judge and condemn myself because of that experience. So until I awaken from it, that's how I'm going to be, because I'm following an example. I'm living to an imprinting pattern. I'm trying to change things by fiddling with the effect. I'm seeing my fear, anger, and grief reflected outside of me and attacking it, trying to stamp it out in any way I can. I'm living in victim and victor mentality, in which I'm blaming others for the condition of my own heart, and I'm trying to stop them from showing that to me. This is all a natural part of the journey. So when I see that about myself and I begin to move into a level of awareness about how my behavior comes about how my experience is manifest, then I really can't stand there and judge myself, because I see just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Justice. And in that moment, then I can forgive myself. Now I'm going to take care of my heart. I'm going to do whatever it takes to move myself into felt perception, reawaken my emotional body awareness, so that I can begin to operate from the causal point of my awareness. In other words, be able to feel the consequences of my thoughts, words, and deeds before I even put them into play. Therefore, by taking responsibility for my own experience, I'll become a responsible being in my world. That's a remarkable shift to make. So how can I get down on myself for everything that's taken me to get there? So I can forgive myself. But sometimes it's hard for me to forgive other people, because it's very easy to see that about myself. But isn't everyone in the same boat? Isn't someone who's behaving in a hurtful way just doing so because it's the only way they know how to get the attention that they're striving for, they're needing and wanting, because they were never shown how to give that to themselves? The hardest people to forgive are our parents. We can forgive ourselves. I forgive myself. And that's where we enter what's called arrogance. It's a big block. I can forgive myself, forgive other people, but I can't forgive my parents. And the block that stands between us and forgiving our parents is the fact that it's very hard for us to allow ourselves to see our parents as children. And our parents were children once too. And they went through childhood experiences that imprinted them. And what's more, they didn't grow up in this era that we're living in, which really is an era of awakening. So they never had the tools. Because you can be sure if they did, they would have used them. So let's close our eyes for a moment and connect our breathing. And bring a picture of our parents to mind, whether they're in this world or not. And simply see them as children. When we see our parents as children, it's very easy to forgive. Okay, open the eyes. So in session 8, we're dealing with mental clarity. And so we use the same navigational tool, the same series of questions. And this time we're asking about mental clarity. And we ask those questions, again, twice a day as we move through that week. So we get to session 9. When people get to session 9, they go, thank goodness. A decent present activation statement. I invite myself to be spontaneously joyful. Thank goodness. And then after a week they go, that's been the worst week of my life. Because when you invite yourself to be spontaneously joyful, you're really going to find out something about yourself. So when we go through the first 7 years, when we go through childhood, whatever happens to us becomes our definition of love. And then what we do is we become adults, and amongst ourselves as adults, we have discussions about what love is, and we agree on these things. But remember that the child is the creator. And just as a tool that can be used for creation can also be used for destruction, the same energy is at work. Attention, intention. How is that attention and intention being wielded? What is the intention? Now, if I, as a child, am, for example, abused during childhood, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally abused, and that might be the only real attention I ever got, even if it's negative and uncomfortable, terrible attention, that is going to impact my emotional body. And so when I become an adult, if I want to feel something, I will manifest an experience in which I enter physical, mental, or emotional abuse in order that I feel something real, in order that I feel what love is, because that is now my definition of love. It doesn't matter what I as an adult think. I can meet someone, see my dysfunctions, and fall in love. And as soon as that passes, because I'm really on my best behavior when I meet someone, as soon as that passes, what's going to happen is I'm going to want to feel loved. I'm only going to that person because I need something, if I'm still in a place of a need and want. And until I get a certain emotional signature in my experience, the same emotional signature that I experienced as a child, I won't feel loved. And if that emotional signature was someone doing that to me as a child, if that was the only time I got attention, then I'm going to provoke that into the relationship. Of course, I'll blame the other person, but I will provoke that into the relationship. And for example, women who are beaten by their husbands will say, I can't leave him because he loves me. And what's really underneath is saying, I can't leave because that physical abuse is my definition of what love is. And even if you rescue a person from that relationship and save them from their own definition of love, wherever you let them go again in the world, they will re-manifest the same. It's like a person who walks into a bar and always gets beaten up. There are people like that because that's their definition of feeling something. So we all have an unconscious definition of love. We have a primary theme. This is my primary Broadway drama that I play out. In fact, it's what keeps me with my family. It's the primary theme of our family. It's the main dysfunction that keeps our family together as a soul group working on this dysfunction. It's hard for me to see this because it is my unconscious definition of love, not my conscious definition of love. But this unconscious definition of love is what prevents me from being spontaneously joyful in my life. So in session 9, we want to look at that. And often it takes going through the process the second time to really get what that is, because it is an unconscious definition. So we ask certain questions during session 9 that are meant to start moving the energy that will enable this to come into our awareness. The best place to see our unconscious definition of love at play is in our intimate relationships with another human being, because that's when I'm out to get me some loving. When I'm out to get me some loving, you can be sure that at some point I'm not going to get what I want, and the relationship is either going to end and we're going to part, or it's going to dissolve into quiet desperation for the rest of my life. It's not how I go into my intimate relationships that tells me what my unconscious definition of love is. It's how I exit them, or how they sour. However I exit them and however I sour, that is my unconscious definition of love staring at me in the face. That's what I was really looking for. That's what the child in me believes love is. So the first question we can ask ourselves is, how do my intimate relationships always turn out? How do my intimate relationships always turn out? And then the next question we can ask ourselves is, how am I left feeling? How am I left feeling? Because it's the emotional signature underneath that is the causal point of that unconscious definition of love. So my relationship may always turn out that the person leaves me, or I walk out. But usually say the person always leaves me. And then how am I left feeling? If the answer may come, I'm left feeling abandoned. How do I share this experience with my family? So remember our example yesterday where we were tracing the repeating of a pattern that when I was in the womb, my father and mother had a fight, and he walked out and she felt abandoned. And then when I was young, maybe they got divorced, there was abandonment. So I may see that way how I shared with my family. But if I look at my siblings and their relationships, and if I can look at them through emotional body awareness, in other words, not through the physical circumstances of how their relationships end, or their intimate relationships end, but if I can look and see how they are left feeling, I will see the same signature occurring, because that's what we do in our family. We share this unconscious definition of love. It's the theme of our family. And then we can ask a question, and this question obviously often eludes us completely. That's why it can take going through the process the second time before it, okay. And the question is, what is the opposite of my unconscious definition of love? If I find that my unconscious definition of love is abandonment, and I'm always manifesting abandonment, and I will see the abandonment because my friends will abandon me, I'll be at work and the boss will abandon me somehow, there'll be abandonment everywhere if I look carefully. Because wherever I'm going in the world trying to feel something, I'll manifest that experience. when I realize that abandonment is my unconscious definition of love, then I can ask myself what the opposite is, and it won't come to me because I don't value it. I don't value it. So it won't even be there in my consciousness. So it can be challenging to get that. And no one can tell us what that is. When it comes, it'll be like a ton of bricks falling all around us, because that is exactly what we have been looking for all our lives. Whatever that unconscious definition of love is what I have been searching for in everything without realizing it. So let's say the light comes on and I go, the opposite of my unconscious definition of love is commitment. Commitment. I've never been committed to anything in my life. I've never been committed to myself. I've never been committed to my relationships. I've never been committed to anyone at work. I was never committed to my boss. And therefore, no one in the world reflected commitment back to me. The world is just a place of ongoing abandonment. So there's something interesting here, because there's 3 levels of awareness that are happening here in seeing behavior. And the outer level is the reflection. Remember, we dealt with reflection. So reflection looks like this. Those people over there are always gossiping. Have you noticed how they gossip? They gossip all day long. All they do is stand around and talk about other people. It's really, don't they have anything better to do? Unbelievable. Then I start awakening and I go, okay. First I see people gossiping, and usually I think they're gossiping about me. And then that's a reflection. Then I awaken to projection. That's physical. So I awaken into the mental and I awaken into projection, in which I see that I'm actually standing here gossiping about them. I'm doing exactly what is annoying me about them. Annoying is an interesting word, and gnawing into me. But then there's another level, and that's going into the emotional body awareness. When I enter emotional body awareness, I will realize that I'm consistently gossiping about myself to myself. In other words, it's coming from my emotional body. I'm consistently saying, oh, you've just blown it again. You're useless. Can't you ever get that right? You're always messing these things up. Blah, 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 blah. I find out that I'm doing that to myself. So emotionally, I do it to myself. Mentally, I'm doing it to others. And physically, I see the world doing it around me. It's the same pathway of awareness we've been working through. So now it comes to my attention that abandonment is my unconscious definition of love, and the opposite to that is commitment. Commitment has the energy to bring me back into balance, in my experience. That's what will bring me back into balance. And so the first step is to do it causally. In other words, on an emotional level. In other words, first of all, if I want to rectify my experience, I need to commit to my own heart. I need to commit to myself. I need to make a commitment to the child within me and to that relationship. Whatever that takes, I need to commit to that. And you don't just go, okay, I'm committing, done. We have to learn how to do that. Remember, we didn't even value this. We've never done it. We don't even know how to do it. But just setting the intent will open it up. Ask the question, how do I commit? Let the universe answer. Remember, just stay in the question. So now I learn how to commit to myself. I start learning how to nurture myself. I start learning how to guide myself, trust my own guidance, commit to that. I start learning how to heal myself and bring myself back into balance. I start learning how to pay attention to the lessons that I've got to learn in life and deal with those. I commit to all of those things. The moment I really sincerely commit to myself, then it starts moving outward on the pathway of awareness. I will automatically, because I'm committed to my own heart, be able to commit to other people around me. It'll become automatic. I'll find I'll be able to commit to my relationship. I'll be able to commit to my children. I'll be able to commit to the people at my workplace. The reflection in the world will be that suddenly the world is becoming committed to me. The world has become committed to me. And that's when the revelation starts to dawn that there is nothing to get in this world. That I've spent my whole life trying to get love. And I have as much chance of getting love in this world as I have of getting oxygen in the bottom of the sea. There is no oxygen in the bottom of the sea. So if you go down there, take it with you. There is no love in this world to get, because love isn't something you can get. It's only something that can be given. There is actually nothing to get in this world. And when we're frustrated because we can't get any love, we start trying to get some stuff, get some power, get some fame, get. But we arrive naked and empty-handed, and we leave without anything. You know that saying that a hearse doesn't have a roof rack? And the fact that we arrive with nothing and leave with nothing is a little clue, it's just a small one, that getting is not why we're here. And what frustrates us is that the more we get, the more it appears the world is trying to take something from us. And the more we live in a deeper and deeper sense of lack. But the moment I give to myself as a response, not a reaction, the moment I give commitment to myself, the moment I commit to me, it has to start with me. For me, not for because of anybody else. Then I have the strength to commit to another because I cannot give away what I do not have. So I first give to myself. That's what forgiving really means. Forgiving to myself. The moment I forgive myself, I will be in a position where I can love myself in that way. Then I'm able to give to another. And the moment I give that to another, and I give it to the people around me, the world gives it to me. Everything I've been looking for gets given. Because the world is and always will be a reflection of what is happening in my own heart, a reflection of the relationship I have with my own heart. There is no love to get in this world. Forget it. We're here to give love, first to ourselves and learn how to do that, and then to those around us. And that's how we bring oxygen into the oceans, the depths of the ocean where we are. And the moment I give myself love, it's like giving myself oxygen in the depths of the ocean. Then suddenly I have room to breathe. Then suddenly everything starts opening up. When I have room to breathe, I become spontaneously joyful. By finding out what our unconscious definition of love is and placing the opposite into our experience, it brings us into balance. What's really important is that when we give that to ourselves, we don't do so with an agenda. We do it unconditionally. If I'm going to commit to myself, I'm not going to go, you know what, I like this idea, commitment. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. First of all, I've got a 5-year plan here on how to do that. And once I've carried out that 5-year plan, I'm going to assess the results of that. And based on those results, I'll see if this works. Okay? I'll get back to you. It has to be unconditional. In other words, I commit to myself regardless of the consequences. I commit to myself because I love myself. And love is an interesting word too. It's the same word as evolve, because I want to evolve. Remember, we spoke last night about the heart center being a rite of passage, that by going into my heart and feeling what's there, I enable myself to awaken my feeling body, my emotional body awareness. And it's through that awakening of that vocabulary that I can then perceive the vibrational. It's part of my evolution. Loving is evolving. So no one came in this world to teach us about unconditional love. Our parents couldn't love us unconditionally because they didn't receive unconditional love themselves, and because it's not their job to do so. It's no one's job to love me unconditionally. That's my job for it to be authentic. Only when I learn to love myself unconditionally am I able to do that to those in my experience. And then that unconditional behavior is anchored at the causal point of my experience. It's going to radiate out into my world. By changing my relationship with myself, I change my whole world. That's the power of the alchemy. If I run out and join Greenpeace and wave a banner saying save the planet, and I cannot sit at a table in peace with my mother at home, that is completely inauthentic. And often people running around trying to save the planet are actually running away from themselves or running away from something. So the authentic thing is to first save yourself. Save yourself. The moment I can liberate myself, that radiates into all the experiences around me. And it becomes real and lasting because it's happening from the causal point of my experience. So we're going to move now into session 10. Session 10, the presence activation statement is, I appreciate myself. I appreciate myself. And as we said yesterday, appreciation is a double-edged word. Appreciate is a way of saying I'm grateful for, but it's also when I have stocks and shares and they appreciate, they become more. So when I say I appreciate myself, out of gratitude, I am growing my own awareness, my garden of awareness. I'm taking care of myself and letting that, what I take care of, radiate and become more into my experience. When we come into this world and we're not accepted for who we are, because nobody can accept us but ourselves, no one has that insight but ourselves. And so I run through my childhood radiating myself and not seeing it come back. Then what's happening is I become uncomfortable about my state of being. My state of being isn't acknowledged or validated or truly recognized in the world. And so I place no value on that. And what I do instead is I think, well, what can I do then to be accepted? What can I do to get the love I'm looking for? Because just being me doesn't seem to be good enough. So then I run through the world and enter a state of doing, to a point that when I become an adult, I believe that my purpose is something that I do. And so I will say, if I could just find out what it is I come here to do, I'll be happy. Ever heard that one? If I can just find out what I'm supposed to do in this world, I'll be really happy. I'll be at peace. Our purpose becomes a doing. But actually our purpose is a state of being. That's what we come here to access and to share and to anchor into this experience. And that state of being can be accomplished no matter what we're doing. It's not based on any doing. I can access that state of being clearing up trash. I can access that state of being while I'm working as an accountant. There's a simple way that we can begin to activate the state of being for ourselves. Remember last night I said people want to form groups. Let's do a presence process group. Get together and do that, right? And then we're going to enter another inauthentic experience, an artificial experience in which we want to be authentic. When our group is the life we're born into, is the people around us in our world, is the people we meet every day, the barista who's making our coffee, the person at the cash register. And that's the group that can bring us into our authentic state of being and how we are with them. And it's very simple. Between me and you, and between you and anyone else in the world, there's a gap. Between me and you, there's a gap. And in that gap is the world. The world occurs in the gap between us. Now, in that gap, there's a lot of stuff. And my attention is either on the stuff of the gap. For example, this pen is something that occurs between you and me. It's the stuff in the gap. My attention is either on the stuff in the gap or it's on you. If it's on the stuff in the gap, usually I'm moving further away from you if I'm placing more and more attention on the stuff in the gap. The stuff in the gap is neutral. It's absolutely neutral. I say what it's for by the way I use it with my intent. So I can take this pen and I can use it to write love poetry to you. Or I can take this pen and write hate mail to you. The same pen. I can use it to bring me closer to you, or I can use it to push me away from you. I'm the one who says what the stuff is for. Or I can try and find myself in the stuff. So let's see. If I get this car, this big car, will I be me eventually? Now, in each moment of our life, no matter what we're doing, we're either opening the gap or closing the gap. Now, the funny thing about this gap is, this gap between me and you, and the gap between you and anybody else, that's the same gap as between me and God, and you and God. Because our authentic identity, remember, is our presence that's in us, the ray that comes from the sun. That's what we all share. The presence within us, that's our authentic identity. Whenever I look at anybody, I'm just looking at me, really. That's why it's a hall of mirrors. So what is my intention here? Is my intention to open the gap or to close the gap? When I go and buy stuff in the store, am I focused on the stuff as the cashier's ringing it up? Am I going, oh, I wonder if I've got enough stuff for dinner? Look at the prices of the stuff these days. Gosh. Or am I, how are you? How are you doing today? Thanks for helping me out here. Because if my attention is on the stuff, I'm moving away from the presence in front of me. And it's always the same presence in front of me, because there is only one presence. Is my attention on the presence or on the stuff? And what am I using the stuff for? Because the propensity of the universe is to close the gap. Love seeks itself out. Love runs towards itself and backs anything that is for that mission. So I can go through life trying to find myself in the stuff and accumulate lots of it and enter the blood, sweat and tears path and work really hard to have lots of stuff. But I'll find as I do that, I'm going to get further and further away from the presence. Because really, the universe can't support that, because that's all based on fear and reaction. And love can't support fear. It'll allow it because it's non-interfering. It doesn't go into fear. It will allow it. But if I say, well, I would rather use the stuff in my life to close the gap, to bring me closer to those around me. Whatever I have, its only purpose is to bring me into a greater state of presence and being with those around me. No matter how that looks, because I can do that at work. My being at work is only really an excuse to be and show up with the people that are around me. Everything else that goes on is just stuff. When I set that as my intent is to close the gap, to get as close to God as I possibly can. Then the universe shows up to back that. Because now I don't need the stuff for me. It's not a want-to-need thing. I'm not accumulating for the sake of accumulation. I'm not in a state of iniquity. It's just tools. It's just a means for me to be in this world, to be with you. And when I enter that, I will find I always have all the tools I need. I have everything I require to do that, because the universe supports that. And my sense of lack will suddenly subside. And also what happens is that God starts winking back. When I get that, all I'm trying to do is get close to God. God will pop up in the weirdest moments and say the strangest things to me over the groceries while I'm talking to the cash register. But when that happens, when I start having those experiences, when God starts winking at me and saying things to me out of nowhere, going, I just know, this is not the cashier. This is presence speaking right to me in that moment. The worst thing I can do is go home and tell my companion, you know what happened to me today? This happened. So we're one. Our oneness. You can't stay in oneness if you're acting like there's two. Whenever we have a oneness experience, which comes from starting to have a relationship with presence, the moment I start to have a conscious relationship with my own presence, and therefore I'm able to start having a conscious relationship with the presence in everyone around me, and presence starts winking at me and going, you're on the right track. The last thing I must do is tell anybody. And what we do is we run around telling everyone about our oneness experiences, which is what we're saying is, I'm not really one. If I was one, I wouldn't have to tell you, right? So protect those. That's your treasure. When you have those experiences of oneness, put them in your treasure chest and they will grow and you will have more. Appreciate them. Take care of them. They're rare gems and you'll get more and more of them. So it's a simple tool. Those are simple tools that we can use to access our state of being. It's not about anything we do. It's about what I'm being in any moment with those around me. And once I start to go down that road, I will discover what it means that my purpose is not a doing. I'm a human being. I'm here to be in this world. To be here fully. To be here absolutely fully. That's the extraordinary experience. Because when I'm able to be here fully, I'm not trying to get away, that's when I enter the profound spiritual experience that this life is. So, you have a question apparently.
Now that I have taken this weekend, I am starting the book, so I'm not into the process in the book yet. Can I use the breathing technique to center myself? And can I do the 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening without having gone through the whole book?
But you are going to go through the book?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yes. For the people that have done this weekend, you will already be able to recognize that you're in process. You've looked at the tools that take you from reactive to response. It doesn't mean you're not going to react. It means that you can't react anymore without knowing what you're doing. And also, by the way, it doesn't help to say to the person who's setting you up, oh, you're just a messenger, because that's a cop-out. All right? So don't even go there. Right? The messenger doesn't even know they're being a messenger. By you saying, oh, you're just a messenger, what you're saying is, this is not really that important. I'm not really going to take this seriously, so then I'm not going to do the work. That's for you. You never take the work to the messenger. When we do work like this, we're working with our unconsciousness. And as our unconsciousness surfaces, we go unconscious. That's why we have a process. That's why we have something to guide us every day, to assist us to stay conscious as possible while we are going through our own unconsciousness. So the only way through unconsciousness is through unconsciousness. No getting over it or going around it. As we accumulate what we call present moment awareness, as more and more of me arrives here in this moment, my behavior will automatically transform. But as I'm entering this journey, I am going to react. So the first stage is I'm still going to react. And only after I've reacted and shot the messenger am I going to go, oh, I reacted. And then as I accumulate more present moment awareness, I'm going to react. And in mid-reaction, well, why don't you? Okay. In the middle of the reaction, I'm going to get exactly what I'm going to do. So I'll get it while I'm reacting. And then, as I accumulate more present moment awareness, I'm going to see it walking through the door. I'm going to go, here you come. And I know, you're the messenger. But you know what? I'm not falling for this anymore. So even though, as you come in and make me feel really angry, I'm not going to project that anger in any way. I'm going to dismiss you as gracefully as I am able to, and then I will go and do the work. And once I've done the work on that particular emotional blockage, then that messenger doesn't walk in the door, and that's the place we want to arrive at, where there are no messengers setting us up regularly, and that place does exist, a life beyond messengers. I'm seeking it out myself. I know it's there. It's the far-off country. That place exists only when we are truly here, because what the messengers are always coming to tell us is where we are not here. That's really the message. You're not here, and I'm going to show you why in this moment. And if you work on what I'm showing you, more of you will arrive here. And that's why we say the messengers bring us gifts. They bring us presents.
When I'm doing the breathing process and I'm using like an accelerated breathing, sometimes my breathing just slows down naturally and I realize it has slowed down, but it's still even and it's still connected. Is that okay?
when people hear the breathing and the way that I breathe in the intensive. They go, that's really fast. I'm not breathing like that. Okay, so let's look at that again. The reason for that is to stay as conscious as possible. The intent of this breathing technique is to activate present moment awareness and to work with very low frequency energies in our being that are drawing us out of this moment. So as we breathe at that pace, which is I'm increasing the frequency of my overall being, and I've said you'll notice that by what happens with your thought patterns. Suddenly your thoughts are going all over the place. Do not worry about the thoughts. Let them do what they're going to do. This is not about thought control. As you allow yourself to get more involved with this breathing technique, it will lead you into different ways of breathing. The golden rule is, as long as your breathing stays connected, you're doing the work. Whether you realize or not, as long as your breathing stays connected, you're doing the work. When you find, as you will when you do this work, that you start going a little feeling unconscious, deeply tired, that tiredness is a sign that you're about to enter an experience of integration. You're about to integrate something that's deeply unconscious. And what will happen is that you will want to stop your breathing, or you'll want to go to sleep. You'll want to back off from that because that's something that we've been hiding from ourselves from a long time or suppressing. And that's why at that point, if you feel yourself getting tired and weary and unconscious, if you increase the frequency of the breathing, it will help you to remain alert during that and to move through that. And you'll find if you stay with that tiredness and you keep breathing, there will come a moment when it will just subside and you'll feel powerfully alert. Because what's happened is an aspect of your being which has been focused on a particular issue somewhere in yourself and been trying to integrate that. The energy that we use to do that is now available for this moment, and you'll feel it, an increased sense of alertness. The first time that we do this process, especially when we do it through the book, we are interacting with it mentally. We are doing the physical procedure of the breathing. We are opening ourselves up to the emotional processing. But really, because we are in such a mental state of being, that we are going to do this process first mentally. And while we do this process, what's going to happen, in other words, we are going to be taking in the information about the process and then doing the procedures as best we can. And we don't know the value of breathing until we've done the process once anyway. The value of breathing for 15 minutes twice a day is really only known by us in hindsight. And also remember, it's making changes at the causal point of our experience. So until we have emotional body awareness, we can't really see what it's doing. We can only see the effect in our lives if we know how to look for that. So once we've done the breathing once experientially, it's really good to take about a 3-week break. And when we take that 3-week break, it's very important that we keep breathing twice a day. In fact, when you do a process like this, which is entirely causal, everything about this process is causal. It is not concerned with effects at all. It's not concerned with drama. It's not concerned with any of that. It's purely causal. What this process is like, it's like going into the back garden that's been unattended and is overgrown and full of weeds, and going and clearing all the weeds out, finding all the pathways through the garden, and preparing some of the beds and planting some seeds. That's what you've done when you've done this process once. That's it. Now, if you walk away and release your responsibility for this work, for your own heart, weeds will eventually grow back. If you choose to go back into unconsciousness, in other words, not to live consciously, because this is what this is about. To be responsible for my heart means I'm choosing to live consciously. After 3 weeks of not doing the process, and during those 3 weeks you continue to breathe twice a day, then you can enter the process again. And I wouldn't just jump in again at session 1, because if you read the book from the beginning again, you're going to have a whole other understanding about what's going on. Because now when you're entering the book, you're entering with experience. You're no longer just entering this as a mental journey. You now have physical experience of the breathing. You now have emotional experience. You've had emotions come up and what that feels like. And so when you read through the preparation material, you will have a deeper understanding of why that preparation material is there and what it's really trying to tell you. You first have to have the experience to really get it. Remember that this book is written from years of experience, not from years of reading. It's written from experience. And so it requires experience to really get what it's trying to say. So that's why it's important to go in and do the process again. And people have done it 4 or 5 times. And those people will tell you that every time that they do it, it's often like a completely new experience. It's like reading the text for the first time, because the text will meet you at your level of experience. The more experience you have about emotional processing, the more you will understand what it's telling you. I'll give you an example of that, which is quite a controversial example, but I'll give you that example of that because I want to show you what it means. That if we only interact with our world physically, we perceive everything we're told physically. And then when we only interact with our world mentally, we perceive it mentally. And once we start to interact with our world emotionally, we will perceive it emotionally. So let's take something like the virgin birth from which Jesus came. Let's look at that as an example. So when I perceive my world physically, I actually think that Mary was a virgin and that Jesus was born of a virgin because I'm seeing it physically. And then when I perceive it mentally, then I may accept it on some level, but I would have to believe it as a mental concept. But when I enter my own emotional body and I perceive it from an emotional experience, it'll become clear to me that Mary did not imprint Jesus on any level with anything. Her emotional body was absolutely clean and clear and pure so that he could come into the world and be untouched by any imprinting. And therefore, that was the virgin birth. You see, as we get deeper into our own emotional processes, what we're going to find is that the things that we assumed about the world, we only did so because we were looking at only from physically and mentally. But for example, Jesus taught emotional body teachings. And in fact, he taught vibrational body teachings. And so when we get into vibrational awareness, that whole scenario of the virgin birth is going to even get deeper. We'll have a deeper, but we can't get there yet until we've got there in ourselves. The same as in the presence process. When you first read the presence process, you're interacting with it mentally, but when you actually have the experience of emotional processing, you're going to have experiences about what's written in that book that are much deeper than what's apparent at the moment. It's written in that way. This is the question: what is the point of a perfect, so-called perfect being coming into the world, entering these tragic experiences, and then trying to regain perfection? I mean, why all this stuff? So there's different levels, again, of looking at this. So, for example, it's about understanding the dharma of what's going on here, of what this physical body is. If I want to be a champion bodybuilder, there's no ways I'm going to accomplish that by hanging out with my buddies in the bar. What I'm going to have to do, because I want to build a big body, right? So I'm going to have to go to gym and traumatize my muscles. I'm going to have to break those muscles down and let them build back up, because that's what weightlifting is. It's destroying the muscle and then letting it callous again and destroying it. And the amount of trauma that I can allow myself to experience will determine how big muscles I can grow. My strength will be determined by how much pain I can go through. So on one level, we're coming here to build a physical vehicle that has a profound mental aspect to it. And the mental aspect of this vehicle is not designed for thinking and analysis and even understanding. We only do that when we're mental. The thinking part of the body is a tool of navigation, point of focus. And the emotional part of the body is not designed for drama, although that's all we use it for. It's about energies that can move in motion, different types of energies. It's fuel for movement. And that's why when we enter the presence process, one of the chapters that we read about is helps us to redefine what we think of as movement. Okay, we think of as movement as moving the radio around the room to try and change stations. That's what we think of. So we think movement is a physical thing. So if we weren't happy with where we are, we try and move stuff around or move ourselves around. But what we'll find is that when we do emotional work and we adjust what's happening in the emotional body, the world automatically moves around us. Real movement is taking place only in the emotional body. When those energies move, real movement is reflected in the world. Real and lasting movement. The other movement is just motion, or actually commotion. So we have this organic vehicle, this profound vehicle that has a navigation system and has a fuel to it, profound fuels. And there's different levels of fuels. And to use it the way we use it in the world at the moment is the same as using the space shuttle to deliver pencils from England to France. We haven't yet discovered what we have here. Everyone's looking for the time machine, trying to build a rocket to take them to the furthest galaxy. Well, this is it. We're in it. We just haven't learned to use it yet. But we can't use it until it's strong enough to be used. We first have to get into it. Most of us are like a person who owns a car and spends their time standing next to the car, showing everybody the car, getting in the car and sleeping in it at night, but never switch the car on. Okay, polishing the car, look how beautiful the car is. We never switched it on. when we consciously connect our breathing, what we're doing is going for the first time. The breath is the key to switching on the machine. And then what we'll find is as we process our grief, anger, and fear, that it's not really grief, anger, and fear. That's what we called it. It's just energy, different types of energy that we can use for inner movement. Our most important task at the moment is to take care that we don't lose the vehicle. Because when you lose the vehicle, you can't go on the ride. So if we get into our drama, if we start to believe the reflections we see around us, the reflections are not real, but the projections that we get involved with are. They have very real consequences. And if I go into combat with my messenger, if I try to stamp my messenger out all over the planet, and I go into combat with him, you can be sure I'm going to lose my physical vehicle. And then I'm out of the game. Sure, I can sit on the grandstands and watch the greatest events that's ever happened, but I can't be in the car and drive around the track, and that's where you want to be, metaphorically. So our job is to take care of our heart center and what's bubbling up there, so that we can establish real peace around us. Real peace, nothing that we have to force, no enforcing of peace. The real peace in wherever we are, that's our sole responsibility. And when we're standing in that place of peace, our physical vehicle will be untouched. And then when the time comes for us to be aware of what this is about for our vehicle, we'll be ready. It's all given. It's all given. But there's a path, there's a rite of passage. And that's really about what's going on in our own hearts. I want to know what God is. I want to learn how to feel. So in my journey, I've come here to learn how to feel. It's the bottom line. Once I learn how to feel, then whatever it is that I am has the vocabulary with which I can now not only approach what I really am, but approach what God really is. That's why the heart is the rite of passage. So our only task is to feel. The feeling is what's real. The feeling will get us to get real. All we want to do at the moment is get real, feel. Whatever it takes, whatever it takes, for heaven's sakes. Whatever it takes. And it's not going to be what we think we're supposed to be doing. It's not about what we think. It's going to come to us from what we do not know. So those of us that enter this journey thinking we know or get stuck very quickly. That's why book study is so perilous. Because we believe that there's any knowledge in books. There is no knowledge in books. There is no knowledge in books. There's just information. There's just information. And if you take in too much information and you don't embody it, you go mental. Live in a completely illusionary paradigm. One in which you think you actually know something. And when you know, when I say I know, I have blocked off all learning. If I want to grow, if I honestly want to grow, I must accept that that growth will come from what I do not know, and that what I know is going to block me from the growth. And whenever we enter any experience, even if we enter it consciously, we're going to enter on the basis of what we know. Right? But we must be prepared to be wrong about it in every moment. And so those of us that like to stand in the place of being right, we're stuck. We're stuck. And that's the danger of being in a situation of facilitating anybody else in this world. We're helpful. We want to be in service. And so what we set ourselves up as a facilitator of others, which is apparently looks like we know something. Now we're stuck.
Sickness, injury, accidents, are they always a manifestation of an imbalance in the emotional body?
Sickness, injury, and accidents are all drama. Bottom line. They're the human drama. We call it the human drama. They're ways of accomplishing things outside of us and getting our attention from outside of us while we can't see, while we have no insight. And that's an important thing to understand, is that until we have emotional body awareness, until we function from felt perception and believe those eyes more than the eyes of the body. Remember, the eyes of the body can only show what's impermanent. They can only show what's impermanent. So until we have any insight, in other words, I can see within myself, I can see things from the causal point of my experience, and through the causal point of my experience, I am going to look outside. And while I can only look outside, then what's going on inside of me has to be projected out there. And the experiences I need to work with have to impact this out there. But the moment that I allow myself to develop insight, which comes through feeling, then less of that will happen. And even when it does happen, I won't project it further out there. In other words, I won't use it as drama. I will approach it as dharma. So I'm still going to have events in my life which may be injury, sickness, illness, discomforts happening. But it's not about that. It's about, am I responding or reacting? Is that the dharma for me, or is that the drama? If I am sincerely entering a journey in which I'm going to take care of my own heart, then every one of those is an opportunity to do that at a deeper level. If I still do not have the maturity that is required to take care of my own heart, then I'm going to use that exact same event to get attention from the world and walk further away from myself into a deeper, inauthentic experience.
Michael, could you speak a little bit about gratitude?
In a time-based paradigm, I'm going to have gratitude by comparison. When I'm running away from my stuff, when I'm running away from the discomfort in my heart, every time I get to a place where I feel like I can rest and I feel comfortable, I'm going to be grateful, right? Because there are places where I'm not comfortable, so it's gratitude by comparison. It's the same as looking for happiness. Happiness causes a separation within inside of me. My search for happiness is only because I'm so unhappy. It's not an authentic journey at all. Search for happiness creates more unhappiness because it causes me to run further and further away from what's really going on. So gratitude by comparison is like, I'm glad I got food because the people in Somalia are starving. Okay, so again, my gratitude is reactive. It's a reaction. But when I deal with what's going on in my heart, when I take a look at that and I allow myself to experience that and to gain the Dharma out of that, and when I use the Dharma, I mean, what is the deeper meaning? What is the teaching? What is the purpose here? Then I don't run from my experiences anymore. Then I'm happy just to sit in this moment that I'm in. And when I sit in the moment I'm in, I will have the profound realization that this moment is the most profound spiritual experience I can possibly have right now. It's where I'm at, right here. Then I become deeply grateful for discovering that. And I become deeply grateful for everything that brought me to that place. And I become deeply grateful for everything that's happening around me in that moment. A better word for it is appreciation. I begin to appreciate everything because I realize how beautifully orchestrated everything is to bring me to this moment, and that it was all given. I thought I was going to get something, and the only thing I've ever got is that it's given. So I become really appreciative of each moment that I'm in. And that appreciation is a powerful space to be in, because appreciation also means to make more. If I have stocks and shares and they appreciate, they become more. So by appreciating this moment just for what it is, it grows, it deepens, it becomes more profound. So going around going, I'm grateful for this because I know it's good to be grateful, it's not going to work for you. It's a good start. Gratitude is not calculated. It's not something we have to decide to be. It comes from inside out. It's a feeling that comes, wow. No one has to tell me to be grateful. If I'm truly grateful, it just comes.
I guess medication would be like automatic pilot for your drama. And how can you sort of get to a point where you know you can drop the pilot and, go on your way?
Remember that doctors are God too. Remember that the mental body has a role too. Remember that everything has its place. So remember that medications are created too. They're part of what's going on. They have their place. It's when we assign them an incorrect place. The whole thing about this journey, about the integrative journey, is it's not an all place. What happens is when we start seeking really deeply, we go into all places. I'm a disciple, or I'm a lover, or I'm a parent. Okay, but I can't be a parent and a disciple, so I'm going to have to leave my family and go and be a disciple, because I can only be this or that. And then we enter separation and fragmentation and inauthenticity again. This journey of integration is an and place. I can be a disciple, and I can be a lover, and I can be a parent. And when I get into the and place, some profound things happen in my experience. Remember yesterday we spoke about the DNA and how only a little bit of it's used. The scientists will tell us, oh, the rest is just lying around, it's junk DNA. Can't use the DNA in an all place, because the DNA is about everything. It's not just about this or that. It's about everything. And that's why DNA spelled backwards is? Exactly. So when I am ill and I'm having physical, mental or emotional stuff going on, let me stay in an and place about it. If I stay in an and place, I will enter balance. So maybe I have severe depression, and when I'm not on my medication, it's so debilitating that I don't even know my own name. So I can take my depression medication and be able to speak to someone about what I'm going through and do the work to take care of what's really going on behind that. And if I stay in an and place, I will return to balance. And I will know, because the antidepressant medication, once I'm returning to balance, will become too strong for me. And so I can go to someone who's conscious and say, assist me now to begin decreasing this in a responsible way. So just because you've heard about walking and you've been using crutches all your life, don't just suddenly throw the crutches away. You'll fall over. So stay in an and place. Get out of this all thing. If you're on medication and you've been on medication for a long time, respect that. Respect that it was part of what brought you to this moment. It's what enabled you to get here. But now, how do you move from here? How can you take deeper responsibility for your experience? Because the deeper the responsibility we take, the more in balance we will become, the less we will require outer things to prop us up. But don't just throw away all the stuff quickly. You may end up in a worse experience than before. See it as a continuation. Whatever you're doing from this point is going to be a continuation of what's already been happening. In other words, my past is important to what I've come through. It's an and place. I'm not going to suddenly cut all that off. And any extreme behavior like that is reactive. We have to be responsive, responsible. Remember that the heart center is about responsibility, consistency, compassion. Those three things.
I'm very interested in how what we go through individually, whether we're connected or not, manifests macrocosmically in terms of religion, specifically fundamentalism.
Well, we have our own personal drama, and we have our own family drama, and we have our own community dramas, and we have our own cultural dramas. If you're involved in that, for example, if you're involved in being a part of a religion that's fighting against another religion, then your only place where you can restore balance to that experience is with what's happening in your own heart. That's the only place you are responsible for, and that's the only place you can go to transform any experience you're having. So the good and evil comes in when I'm seeking happiness because I'm so unhappy. And I'm unhappy because of the discomfort that's going on in my own heart. So what I'm doing is I'm running from it into another experience which I call looking for happiness, which is a sleep state. Okay. That's why we talk of our dreams. Oh, my dreams are to have this one day. Only sleeping people dream. Waking people have visions. So think about the American dream. In pursuit of happiness. When I'm in pursuit of... Pursuit? I'm in pursuit. Pursuit, it means chase, right? Run after. When I'm running after something, I'm running away from something. I'm running away from what's going on with me right now. From the fear, anger, and grief. And when I run away from something, I can't run away from it. There's nowhere to go. It's going to be wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. So what I'll do is I will turn it, the thing chasing me, I will turn it into the darkness. I'll give it horns and a long tail. And then I will project it outward into the world. And anybody who shows me my stuff, I will say, that group of people there are working for the guy with the horns. And that's how I project it out in the world. But my only place where I can authentically transform that experience is in my own heart, where I actually feel what's going on. When I transform that, I will lose interest in those dramas automatically. They won't even grab my attention. And then when I start watching the news, I won't know if I'm watching Saturday Night Live or the news. And really, watching the news is kind of funny. You start watching it from the point of drama. Drama, fear. Drama, fear, drama. So how many people have died of bird flu? You know? How many? Really, how many in a world of 8 billion? Okay.
About 100.
Right, about 100 people have died of bird flu. More people died yesterday because they weren't driving their cars, right? So now we can use those 100 people as a tool. Fear. The real world is right there in the room where you are. And it's only in that world that you can radiate peace, from that place. Don't let people fool you that if you can leave that living room space of yours and go and do something out there, that you can add to peace. You have to do it. We have to do it in our own heart. That's authentic. And when you do the work to do that, you will realize that for yourself. That's where your power is, in the heart, in our own heart. There is no limit to what can be radiated from the heart because it's the causal point. Everything else is the effect of it.
Is the messenger always negative or something that upsets us? Or what about the times when we're excited about something?
Well, then be excited. But be aware that excitement is really polar opposite of fear. It's like, people say, what do you do for fun? Right? Because my life's so shitty, I've got to go and do stuff for fun. So what do you do for fun? Your life must be pretty bad too, because mine is. So what do you do for fun? Well, actually, I don't do anything for fun. I'm having fun right now. And when I leave here, I'll still be having fun. I have fun till I go to sleep. And I get up in the morning, I want to have more fun. I don't have to go and do stuff for fun, okay? So it's the same as when you get very excited about something, take a look at that. Why are you getting so excited about it? Often excitement is riddled with nervous tension. When something is excited, it's...
I've been doing Transcendental Meditation for many years, and so sometimes when I connect my breathing, I transcend, and then I wake up and realize I haven't been breathing.
I have no idea what Transcendental Meditation is. I've never done it. I've never read about it. So all I can say is that this breathing is not about meditation. Be very clear about that. So often when I'm facilitating people, I have them come sit there and they want to meditate. They breathe and they want to meditate. Well, already that can take you into an opiate space. It's delicious and comfortable, but nothing's going on there as far as emotional processing is concerned. That's why we need to pay attention to our breathing and keep it connected. If you find yourself you've gone out, well, you've gone out. You got out the car and you walked off somewhere for a while. Okay, so you didn't really go anywhere because the car is sitting stationary. Okay. If you'd gone out absolutely consciously and you could remember every moment of it, that may be something else. But that's not the intention of this work. We're not trying to get out of it right now. We're trying to get into it. Often we approach meditation because we're looking for another way to get out of it. So just be very aware of what the intention is. We're moving along the pathway of awareness as a whole, part of what's going on to us in humanity. So we've gone through very physical experience, which we could think of as the cave person period. Very primitive, physical, which lasted a very long time. Just trying to get the physical together. Just trying to get this consciousness to stay in a body. Then we've gone through a very mental experience, which peaked in the last 100 years, which was much shorter than that primal physical experience. And now we're going through an emotional experience that is going to be just as much shorter than the mental experience. In fact, it's going to be very short. This is my insight. It may be completely wrong. I'm open to being wrong about it. But when we go through the emotional body, the journey is much quicker than all the mental stuff we've been doing. And if we go through it unconsciously, we will move from fear to anger to grief, because that is the movement through the emotional body. That's the pathway of awareness. So we will go from war and terror, fear, to Iraq, rage, and to grief, tsunami. We will see that movement moving through the world in that passageway as we do it, as humanity does this unconsciously. And if we don't participate in the experience, we will participate in that way. But if we take responsibility for the experience, it'll be an internal journey for us as we move through the emotional body. And at the end of the emotional body is the vibrational experience. And we don't even know what that looks like from this side, because we didn't even know what the emotional stuff looked like from the mental. It's only when we enter the emotional work through experience that we can go, okay, so I know, getting a feel of what this is about. I had no idea. It wasn't what I thought it was. It was deeper and more real. So whatever's happening to us, something is happening. The world's getting hotter because no one's dealing with the heat in the emotional body. And so it's projected outwardly as an increase of heat all around the planet. It's going to happen. It's happening to us. So when we're doing the presence process, what we're doing is decreasing our anxiety by explaining to ourselves what's happening to us. It's happening. It's either going to happen unconsciously or consciously. The thing about happening consciously is there won't be drama, and we'll be able to keep this vehicle through whatever the experience is. In other words, we won't interact with whatever is unfolding through fear, but through love. And love is not a mushy emotional thing that we're taught. Love just means to evolve. In other words, we'll use each moment to awaken ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is what love really is. When I do that for myself, when I offer myself that experience, and I take care of myself in such a way that I use this opportunity to allow myself to continually evolve, that's being loving. That's evolving. That's the loving relationship. When I'm like that towards myself, I'm automatically like that to everyone around me. If I'm not like that towards myself, then I'm definitely interfering with myself. And I will be going to interfere with everyone around me. And nothing comes out of fear that's worth talking about, really, if I'm doing that, if I'm not going to take the dharma out of it. If I'm going to stay in the fear and only work with that, there's no purpose in the fear, to stay in the fear. Let's move through it and overcome it and learn the wisdom from it, but not be chased by it, not make decisions driven by it. None of those choices, no choices made running from fear, based on the fear, can assist us in any way. And that's why watching the news cannot assist us. It's not about TV, good or bad. TV's neutral. You can go and get a DVD and watch profound, awakening movies on your TV. It's not about the TV. Oh, let's take the TV and throw it on the pavewalk. Okay. Bad TV. Bad TV. Not the TV. TV's God. But we can can put what we want, choose, be responsible about it. Unless I do want to have a good laugh, then switch on CNN.
Kind of a strange thing to want to go into the uncomfortable. You're always trying to go to the comfortable. How do you see, it's almost, when you're going to the uncomfortable, you're going to where you've told yourself the whole life that you've had so far that, well, that's the wrong direction.
What you want to look at is why you're heading towards the comfortable all the time. And you don't have to go into the uncomfortable. The uncomfortable is there. That's why you're heading into the comfortable. You wouldn't seek out the comfortable if you were comfortable. You wouldn't even give it a name. Okay. So it's not about going into the uncomfortable. It's about getting authentic with what's really going on with you. It's not about seeking out you don't have to seek out the uncomfortable. It's got you already. Okay. Wherever you go, there you are. So when I'm talking about joy not being an emotion, is that we don't know what joy is because we've been striving for this particular emotion, this feeling good. I want to feel good, and we're doing that because I feel so bad. I wouldn't even think in terms of trying to feel good if I wasn't feeling bad. Why would it even come up? So I've had moments when I do feel good. Oh, I feel good for a while. I know this is not going to last, so let me hold on to it as desperately as possible. So I think that when I'm thinking in terms of entering joy, that joy must be about feeling good because that's all I know. But joy is not about feeling good. Joy is about feeling everything. Joy is a relationship I have with my emotional body, not an emotion, not any specific emotion per se. It's an and place. I'm happy to feel uncomfortable and comfortable. I'm not going to chase one and run away from the other because that's going to create a division in my heart. That's why there's different levels of fuel in the emotional body. So happiness is a kind of fuel that moves us. And we have to get that from the outside world. We have to get happiness from outside ourselves. Happiness I get from the world. Something must happen for me to be happy. And I'm going to make something happen for me to be happy. And to do that, I'm going to have to go out and buy that car, or build that nice house, or marry that person, or get that promotion so that I can be happy. But I know it doesn't last. If I've done it, I will see that it's for a while. I can go to my buddies and go, hey, check the car. But if you go to your buddies every week and go, hey, check the car, okay, it's not going to work anymore. So I better do something else. I better find a babe to put in the car. Now I can bring the car. Hey, check the car and the babe. Okay. And that'll work for a little bit, but it won't be enough. So I better get a house to park the car in. Hey, check the car and the babe in the house. Okay. And so I go on. That is the pursuit of happiness. I'll have to work really hard, earn lots of money, because once the babe's in the car. So happiness comes from the world. It's given to me by the world depending on how well I cooperate with the world. Joy does not come from the world. Joy is something that I can only give myself. It comes from doing the work in my own heart, work that the world can't see and cannot participate in, the beginning of inner work. And when I take a look at my own desire to run for happiness and work with that and get real with that until a point that I'm not running anywhere and I can settle into the moment that I'm in, then I enter joy. And in that moment I can sit here and say, bring it on, anything. I don't care what feelings come. I want them all, because everything that I'm feeling is making this moment deeper. Now I'm in joy. But there's another fuel. It's called bliss. Now that fuel is like the jet fuel. And that fuel is not given to me by myself. The world doesn't even know about it. And only when I'm in a state of joy have I laid a foundation through appreciation of receiving it. And that fuel is going to come from a place that I don't even know exists, from something that is so greater than me that I cannot comprehend. And that fuel is going to enable me to move into a state of being that's incomprehensible. But that doesn't come from me. It's given. That's the fuel that this vehicle is designed for. But you can't, okay, I'm going to go meditate so I can get some bliss. It doesn't work like that. You get happiness. Something you go out and get. I want to get happy, go and get happy. And bliss is grace. And grace is that which comes from outside cause and effect. It doesn't operate according to the law of cause and effect. There is no reason why it's given that we can possibly understand. And bliss, I suspect, is what activates vibrational awareness, is what moves our state of being into that level of awareness. An awareness in which we now stand in the world physically, but are no longer of it. And that's when we enter a state of being called no order of difficulty. Miracle consciousness, ongoing, no order of difficulty, which we can't even really taste it yet. But we can begin to experience that through working with our inner presence, because it works with no order of difficulty. And it shows us this by setting us up when we least expect it. It has no difficulty in setting us up in ways that we can't even protect ourselves from anymore, can't hide. But it takes great responsibility to enter that state of being. It requires responsibility. Because when we have the faith to move mountains, literally, we also are in the state of being in which we become aware that the mountains are in the right place. Don't interfere.
You said that you have an intent on having a relationship with the unknown. And this has just been a very meaningful pointer to me. And so if you could talk about that.
Well, I don't know if I can talk about that because it's unknown. I have in my own journey certain intents, and that's what makes the journey so intense. And one of them is present moment awareness. In other words, I want to be all here. I really want to be all here. I don't want stuff going on unconsciously anymore. And whatever that takes, for heaven's sakes, whatever that takes. So I want to be here. That's one of the intents. The other one is that I want to have a real relationship with the unknown, with what we may call God. I want a real one. I don't want to have to imagine it. I don't want to have to hold crystals and go, okay. I don't want to have to wave stuff around. I want it to be real in the moment. And I don't care if it's only a little bit, if it's only a fragment, as long as it's real. Now, I don't even know what that means or what that looks like. Our journey is driven by the intent. Remember, we have intention and attention. Intention and attention. Those are our tools that we work with. And the intention is always the causal point of where our attention is moving. It's always going to be. The attention is of their mental body. That's driven by the intention. So it's very important that we get clear about what our intentions are without turning them into 5-year plans, because that's letting the mental body drive it again. Because once we establish a clear intention, everything that happens in our life experience, whether we are aware or not, is unfolding in order to bring that intention about. Our life is always an answer to a question we're asking. Always, always, always. The problem is we ask the questions unconsciously. We let a child of 7 years old and younger who's had a really rough time and has some strange beliefs about what's going on and his interpretations are very odd, run the show. And we wonder why things get sabotaged and don't turn out the way we want, because it's asking weird questions. So we better get in there and have a relationship and start parenting this child and set an example for it that wasn't done for us, because no one can do it for us. We need to do that for ourselves, so that the causal point of our experience becomes conscious, becomes compassionate, becomes responsible, becomes consistent, becomes unconditional, and starts to seek out something real. So that's what Paul was referring to, is that I want a relationship with the unknown, which is hard because you can never get to know it, but I still want that, whatever that is. And I don't know what that looks like, but it sure is having an effect on my experience. And as long as I have that, I only want that to matter. I only want that to matter. And that's a journey, because whatever God is infinite. And this is where the mind has just got to just blow off. Like when a rocket's going into space, it just lets go. The mind parts of the mind, the mental framework just has to just blow away, shatter into space, because it cannot cope with infinite. It cannot cope with eternal. It cannot cope with forever and ever. Amen. It'll focus on the full stop at the end of that sentence, not on what the sentence is trying to imply. So if what God is, whatever this unknown is, that maybe I can only begin to have a real relationship with on a vibrational level, is infinite, then my journey is forever and ever. Amen. I'm in no hurry. Not going anywhere. Whatever's happening is going to happen right here, and wherever I go, in whatever moment I'm in. It's the only place it's going to have nowhere for me to go. I've just got to allow it into the moment that I'm already in. That's why I love the word nowhere. Now, here. Nowhere. And in the teachings of Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan said to him, we start off nowhere and we end up nowhere. And our only choice is whether we choose to walk a path of heart or not. And the path of heart opens the doorway. It's the porthole.
Michael, I know the more I work with my emotional body that it will change the people in my surroundings, my family. I have a daughter who's...
It won't change the people in your surroundings and family. Okay. It'll change your perception of them.
Okay. I have a daughter who's 4 and a son who's 10. You have some insight to give that would help me to teach them more of the presence process to grow within them.
You can be an example of it. There's nothing you can do but be an example of what it is you want them, the biggest experience you can hold for them in your heart. You have to be that, and they will automatically get that from you. They will automatically choose the highest road given. We do. That's why someone who grows up and is a violent killer, that actually when they were a child was the highest road shown to them. Can you imagine the low roads that they went through? So children will automatically resonate to the highest road. Automatically. basically. And the learning or the example isn't set by anything you say. It's got nothing to do with your words. Words, even Jesus said that. He didn't go, by their words they shall be known. By their fruits, by their fruits. All you have to do is get into your own garden, plant beautiful things there, abundant that you can share, and your children will come play in the garden. Enough doing things to the children. The children of today are coming to say, you're not going to do any more of that stuff. We're going to break that whole thing down. We are going to break this whole thing down because it's not working. And the problem with being a teacher to children is we can only teach them what we know. And what we know, it doesn't work. So we can only teach them what doesn't work. So it's an interesting situation to be in. How many of us stop and ask them what it is they really want to find out and make that, do whatever we can to make that possible for them? We just assume that we know what they're supposed to learn. We make an ass out of them and us. And the thing is, the consciousness is growing so aware and so powerful that the children are going to break those systems down one way or another. They're going to spit on them. And that's part of the journey too, until we get it. Stop trying to do something to them and start taking care of our own hearts. That's the best example we can set for any child in this world. It's the only thing that will transform that experience. It's when we go around trying to, okay, this breathing works for me. Okay, let me get all the classroom of kids around here and get them breathing. Boom. I better take responsibility for what I'm doing there. For every moment someone consciously connects their breathing through your intent. Remember, you're radiating your intent into them. You're going to start putting them into process. And they're not going to just process in your company so that you can facilitate them and feel really good. They are going to process everywhere they go. And that's why the word responsibility. Responsibility. What does this really mean? It doesn't mean fiddling. Because the stuff in our heart that's our fear, our greatest fears, what we're most angry about, what's the most heartbreaking experiences we've ever had are in there. Tread gently. To do anything else is to lack compassion. So don't go and fiddle with other people. That's where conversionism is startlingly irresponsible. Be careful that we're not converting other people to stuff because we're not doing it ourselves. So there's a whole chapter in the book written about radiating present moment awareness responsibly. Jesus didn't heal anybody. I don't believe it. Sorry. I don't buy that story. I don't believe someone of that awareness would go and just take stuff away from people when that's where the goods are. I don't believe it. Don't buy it for a moment. It turns him into something we cannot be and keeps us separate from that whole experience. So he raised people from the dead. But when we're not in the present moment, we're dead too. And he gave people back their insight. It didn't mean they were physically blind. Insight. So when we enter the heart center, we will understand the metaphors behind these things. And then the miracles won't be things that are so profoundly, unbelievably beating every physical law. They'll be every moment that we're in. That's the miracle and what that moment holds for us. Those are the real miracles. And we're told, this is the only Son of God. But he said, you are all gods. And you will do greater things than I. You will do greater things than I. How can we possibly do anything greater than the only Son of God? You can't follow that act. So when we go into the emotional body and we do our own emotional work, these things are revealed to us in our own experience. We'll see them for what they are. They're metaphors and symbols, parables. That's why he spoke in parable, because he was speaking to the heart, not to the mind. So heal thyself, healer. Heard that one too. Don't go around trying to fiddle with everybody. And be responsible even with your own work. Be really responsible. This is your heart you're talking about. This is the creative aspect of your own being. The way that I relate to my own heart, the way that I am with my own heart is the quality of the experience I manifest for my whole world. Right there, in relationship. That is the relationship that we're all looking for.
Could you speak a little bit more about the difference between intention and what that's really all about and making plans?
So intentions and plans are quite different because intentions have consequences. And when we set an intention, we are working with consequence and we are open to outcome. When we have plans, we're dealing with results and we have a specific outcome in mind that we are going to try and make that happen and control our circumstances to get that happen. In other words, completely shut the universe out of it completely. And so I'll do it as a 5-year plan. You've heard heard those things. Okay, get a 5-year plan. Okay, then break it down to each year. Then take each year, break it down to each month. Okay, take each month, break it down to each week. Then break it down to each day. Now I know what I'm doing every day. And break each day down to each hour and then to each minute. Now I know what I'm doing every minute of every day for the next 5 years. No wonder I need to go and have fun. I've just shut the whole universe out. There can be no magic there. There can only be great disappointment because I cannot control God, even if I think that I can. A plan would be this. I would arrive here today with a set of questions that you are allowed to ask. And I will have already rehearsed the answers that I'm going to give you. So there's nothing for you to do. I'll get Paul to read the questions and I will read out the answers. And then we'll leave and everything will have gone as planned. That's what a plan is. An intention is we come here intending to go anywhere and everywhere, and we most certainly will, to be open to the outcome of that intention. And the intention is to bring greater awareness to this work and to integrate some of the things that have come up for us during the intensive we did yesterday and the talk on Friday evening, and to continue to weave that tapestry that we've been working with together over the weekend. But how to do that? God is how. The universe is how. The universe is always how. And that's where we get stuck. If anyone has problems and they come and tell you their problems, listen for how many times they say the word how in there. I just don't know how to earn more money, and I don't know how to pay my rent, and I don't know how I'm going to get a car, and I don't know how well, God is how. Bottom line, get with that program. The what is ours. The what. So what is the intention? Get very clear on the intention, then back away from it and allow it to unfold. It's cause and effect. Stay in the causal place. Don't go into the effect place. Plans are ineffectual. They're all about the effect. They're all about the result. A result is something, I'm going to compare this to what I thought and let me see, okay, now I'm really disappointed. Okay, because I did not get the results I wanted to. Consequences are something's going to happen through my intention. And determined by the clarity of my intention are going to be the clarity of the consequences. So how clear can I get on my intent? But then I must allow it to unfold. And you can try this on yourself just simply to build your own faith that there actually is another part of this experience that we might want to call God or presence or something. And it's working intimately with us when we allow it, because it does not believe in interference. It believes in non-interference. It has to be allowed in for us to be aware of it. It doesn't barge in and bang on the door and take over. It works in the way we respond to it. So if I'm going into any situation, for example, say I'm having a conflict with somebody else, and I know I'm going to meet with them tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and we're going to enter this conflict. We're going to talk about the conflict that we're in. Now, if I have a plan, I will decide what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to say. And then I will decide what the outcome is going to be. And then this is what I want to accomplish. And unless I get to say what I'm going to say, and unless the outcome is the way that I want to accomplish it exactly how, well, we're just going to have more conflict, aren't we? Those are the results. Those are the plans. But I could rather try it a different way. I could have an intention. And the intention is always about being open to outcome and what is the feeling of the outcome. Remember, the feeling is the causal point of the experience. So when I work with my intention, let me work with feeling. Not details, not ideas, thoughts, plans, analysis, all of that, but feeling. So what I do is I place myself at the outcome of the conflict, of the conversation I'm going to have with this person. How do I want to feel when I walk away from that encounter? How do I want to feel? And then I allow myself to feel that feeling now, because if I can't feel it now, I'm not going to get it then anyway. How do I want myself to feel? And then I just picture myself. Now I can use my mental point of focus. I picture myself leaving that situation, feeling that way. And I make sure I have a very strong feeling over that picture. And then I make my preparations, whatever I can prepare. What are the things I need to talk about? Make those preparations. And then I leave that alone, and I walk into that situation and allow what's going to happen and participate in it as it happens. Not control it, not manipulate it, but just participate. And let the universe weave its magic. Because the universe can take me to that outcome better than anything that I could possibly do. And if I do not interfere in that moment, when I walk out, I'll be feeling the way I asked to feel. And if I'm feeling at peace walking out, isn't that going to have been resolved? I don't have to worry about those details of how that comes about. The how is God. The how is the universe. That's how we enter a co-creative relationship. And start with little things. And when you see that you always get your feeling, you won't get the goods and stuff. Asking this universe for stuff is like a child asking father for a gun, a loaded gun. We're always going to shoot ourselves in the foot with details, plans and stuff. But you can ask for feeling. How do I want to feel? If I've got a long plane trip, 27 hours in an aeroplane. I cannot control what's going to happen through that flight. I can try and be exhausted at the end of it. But what I can do is place myself at the airport where I'm arriving through the doors. Now I'm off the plane, I'm arriving. How do I want to feel in that moment? Rested, cheerful, good spirits? How do I want to feel? Can I feel that now? See myself there, place the feeling, let it go. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride means let everything in as you go through it. That's what enjoy means. Go and enjoy yourself. Allow everything to happen. Don't allow everything to happen. And then I'll see that when that works for me, I'll go, that's pretty nifty. I ended up sitting someone on the plane who was really interesting. They showed a great movie. I loved watching that movie. That was the one I've been waiting to see. I managed to get all this sleep. I never sleep on the plane, but I felt deeply relaxed and slept. I couldn't have made that happen. I got to the other side and I felt great, ready to go. Maybe there's something to this, working with the universe as opposed to controlling it through my plans. Because my plans will always come from what I think I know. Intention is very different. So it's important for us to get clear on our intentions. That's our job. For me, being present, for example, is a feeling. It's not a situation, okay, now when this is here, and that's there, that's when I've entered present moment awareness. No, it's not about the physical circumstances or the mental processes. It's about how I'm feeling. Present moment awareness for me is a feeling.